Hey guys and gals. Hey, I wanted to share a quick story with you. The Lord's been working on me here the last several months, and pretty much what I wanted to talk about was labels and how God has broken some chains of labels that were put on me as when I was younger, but also even later in life. So to get this story started, I had been talking to my boss about the Lord was leading me to another position or to another place in my life with work. And so I was just telling him that I trusted him, the Lord had put him over me as an authority, and I also then just explained to him an example in my life, and essentially what it has to do with is I was in 2001. I had ended up going to the hospital because my family was concerned about me, and I is a mental hospital, and so essentially I walked out of the hospital 3 days later with a label, which was bipolar, and so I proceeded to explain to my boss about kind of something during that process as far as after I got out of the hospital. I was really crushed because I felt like I was asking the Lord, like, why did I have to take medication? Because He had literally just done a miracle in my life, and He got my attention, and so essentially it was, the Lord revealed His love for me as His son, and that just completely was a revelation in my life and just turned my life around. And then about 6 months later, I was in the hospital, and so essentially what happened was after I got out, it was like a 6 month just amazing journey with the Lord. And then going to the hospital, I had to take this medication when I got out, and it was to help me stabilize. And so essentially I was explaining this to my boss, and I told him about the bipolar, that I'd been diagnosed with bipolar, and then I also explained to him how that medication, I had to come to the point of trusting God that it's okay to take medication. And so I just felt like if I took the medication that it made me weak, that I was weak, or my faith or my trust in the Lord, either God wasn't big enough or He wasn't who He says He was. And so essentially I did come to that point, and it took several years, but I came to the point where I realized that God had put that authority over my life through doctors, and then that the medication. So essentially, here's the God, here's the Lord, and then here's the doctors and the medication, I guess. And then it was my decision of whether or not I would take this medication. So there's another story on medication, but I won't go into on that. But essentially, I explained this to my boss, and as the day progressed, the Lord just started to talk to my heart, to speak to me, and eventually it came to the realization that by me sharing that, kind of being that, disclosing that to my boss, God started to break the chains that I was in bondage of because of my label as bipolar. And so, when God started to walk me through that, that thinking process, I realized that, for one thing, the label of bipolar there was a fear that I had, that I was carrying, that God was going to ask me to do something, and because of that label, that I wasn't going to be able to do it, because they people would say, hey, you can't, because you're mentally ill, or you have bipolar. And so by me just sharing that story with my boss, the Lord just broke those chains of what that label had been doing in my heart and my mind, which I believe, I know that God allowed that, and He allowed Satan to use to hold me down in those chains, and so for His greater purpose, to where we are today, where those chains are broken and I've been set free. And the other thing, as God continued to work with me through that, the rest of that, to into the afternoon, I had been labeled, when I was younger. I was a chubby redhead, still am. And so essentially, when I was in middle school, I remember in middle school I was labeled as a Duracell or copper top. If you guys don't know what that means, I understand. It's an old, Duracell is the battery, and they called it. There was an advertisement, and it was called the copper top or something like that. Anyway, that's beside the point. What I'm trying to say is, as the Lord continued to reveal that brokenness, and the labels that caused brokenness in my heart, that I I realized, or God revealed to me that hurt, that I was holding on to the label. And so I was able to, during that next several minutes, I was able to ask the Lord, or actually forgive the people that labeled me, the kids. I mean, I didn't know them, but I didn't name them by name. But if you guys have ever heard of or seen the video about Charlie Bit Me, and we'll play that here probably. But essentially, I put all that pain, all that labeling, all those people, those kids who labeled me in this. I named him Charlie, and I was able to forgive. I asked the Lord to forgive Charlie who bit me, because that really hurt. I love that video. So anyway, as I was talking to my wife about this later on that day or the next day, I we were talking about how, when bullies, when you're picked on or labeled, or you have a bully, and a lot of times, I believe that bullies are being bullied by a bigger bully. So essentially, you've got a bully who's bullying someone else, and that kid bullies someone else. Well, like my wife and I, when we were talking about it, she's like, well, I didn't pass that on. I was labeled, or I was bullied, or I was, treated, unfair, unrightly. So essentially, and then it was like there was a light bulb that went off, and the Lord's like speaking to my heart again, and I was like, well, yeah, I didn't do that either, So I took on the labels, but I didn't pass them on, or I took on the bullying, but I didn't bully other kids. Well, I probably did a little bit. I'm sure we all have. I had a younger brother that would tell you I definitely picked on him. But my point is, that we held on to those labels and those bullying. And so my wife acknowledged she had similar situations in her life. And so but like I said, God just allowed the chains that were binding me and holding me back, because again, I was afraid that God was going to ask me to do something, and because of my labels, I couldn't do that. And so the Lord just healed me through that, and I was able to kind of just get those labels, and just allow Jesus to break those chains that were on me. And so I just wanted to share that with you guys, because I'm sure many of you have been labeled, and This has been tough with everything going on in our world, and so I just want to hope that encourages you guys, and just pray for you all. God bless you. Thanks so much for listening.